Some girls like to say one thing and mean another. And me being who I am, I'm very straightforward. Everything is very black and white for me. I don't really like playing mind games. You can say whatever you want about me, I'm not really bothered. But when it starts to upset people I care about or I hear about it from my mom, then that's a problem. We didn't really expect to achieve anything outside of the UK, and it just went crazy. It's just crazy that people know our music. We're just humbled by it. I was a bit of a handful when I was a kid because I was quite hyperactive. Even in the house, my mom used to put me in my pram because I was so full on.
Life is funny. Things change, people change, but you will always be you. So stay true to yourself and never sacrifice who you are for anyone. The reason I don't tweet as much as I used to is because I'm sick of all the useless opinions and hate that I get daily. Goodbye Twitter. I'm always drawing, so draw something is a cool game to play against your friends when you're bored and sat chilling out and relaxing. There's 3 types of fans. There's the ones that scream, the ones that want to talk to you, and the ones that don't speak at all.
Life is a funny thing. The minute you think you've got everything figured out, something comes along and turns it all upside down. Whenever anything went wrong at home, because I was the only boy, I would get blamed for it straight away. Girls stick together. Little Things isn't about anyone in particular, it's about all girls. You're all beautiful and you need to hear it more often. In life, we always fall for the person who will never fall for us, always want things we can't have, and say things we shouldn't. I am the most jealous boy in the world when I'm with my girlfriend. I always kiss her so that the other guys know she's mine. Life isn't a music player where you choose what's being played, it is a radio where you have to enjoy what's being played. It doesn't matter how much you flirt the whole day, at night you'll always end up thinking about the one you truly love. Everyone happens for a reason, learn it and move on. Don't be bitter about what happened, be happy about what will. Loving you is what I've learned so easily, but trying to forget you is the last thing I could hardly learn. I'm a massive fan of Drake, and we walked right past him. He's too cool to be clapping One Direction though. Don't call a girl a flirt, she's just trying to be nice. Don't call a girl obsessed when she's just in love. It hurts me when seeing a girl cry. I want to comfort them as long as I can, or I'll end up crying too. The person who will give you unexplained happiness will also be the reason for your unexplained sadness. 2 years ago, if anyone had told me I'd be doing half the stuff I'm doing, I wouldn't have believed it. I want a girl who doesn't know that she's beautiful, so I have an excuse to let her know all the time. If you meet a girl, you meet a girl. It's normal, so if you exchange numbers, whatevs, it's cool. I am a bit of a bad boy. I have tattoos and I mess around. That's part of my image, so it's cool. And remember, nobody's feelings are more important than your own, so take time to love yourself. I don't need the perfect one, I just need somebody who will make me feel like I'm the only one. No matter how many times people try to criticize you, the best revenge is to prove them wrong. I just love comic books. I've always loved comic book art, and I just think it's amazing. Live for who and what you love and never compromise your beliefs for anything or anyone. In life, we have decisions to make, paths to take, and opportunities to take advantage of. One direction is the main thing I'm doing, and I'm 100% dedicated to the group. I'm very attracted to a girl's eyes. I think you can tell a lot by a girl's smile. Doesn't mean that someone is happy. Sometimes it just means that you're strong. Never look back, reminiscing on yesterday. Smile for the future, tomorrow's a new day. Loving someone who doesn't love you is like waiting for a ship at the airport. I can't swim, but if my girlfriend was drowning, I'd still dive in to save her. I like girls that are chilled out, that don't really care, that are just cool. Get on in life, because life will get on without you if you don't keep up. My New Year's resolution is definitely to quit smoking. I need to do it. Just because your prince hasn't come doesn't mean you're not a princess. I would date a model, but I would rather marry a fan or a normal person. Just because you don't have a prince, doesn't mean you're not a princess. I love samosas filled with mincemeat. My mom makes really great ones. Just because you aren't perfect, doesn't mean you aren't beautiful. When fans start screaming when they see me, it makes my heart smile. If people talk behind your back, it's because you're ahead of them. When people are putting pressure on me, I just completely ignore it. I do believe in love at first sight. I'm experiencing it every day. There's so much more to the book than the page you were stuck on. Just close your eyes and enjoy the roller coaster that is life. I love the fact I grew up wanting a brother and now I have 4. I like a girl who knows what she wants and makes me work for her. I like the term misunderstood. But I am a bit of a bad boy. The amount of hot girls who come to signings is incredible. I'm not one to get involved with what anyone says about me. Without the fans, there's no reason to be One Direction. I prefer to date younger girls to be more protective. I'm kind of like a bit of everything wrapped into one. My trademark saying is probably, was HAPPENIN? I just wanted somebody to tell me that I could sing. Fans aren't just fans, they're part of my family. You've got to take risks if you want to find love. Get on with life because life gets on without you. Don't call a girl obsessed when she's in love. No matter how hard life is, don't lose hope. You don't need a prince to be a princess. Before you judge people, judge yourself. Enjoy life, it has an expiration date. Never live life in fear of death. Live for who and what you love. A girl fainted in front of me the other day. Obviously, you don't get to see things like that unless you are the Beatles, who have that power, and to see it that close was a bit scary. It was cool to know I can make a girl faint. It's pretty strange because you have images of people in your head when you left, then you just think they're going to be the same when you come back, like time freezes. I have sisters, and from the ages of 11 to 13 it's a big change for girls.
It doesn't matter how many times you win an award, it is always very special. The French team has given me so much and I want to help it. I told myself I did not have much time left in soccer, and I want to profit from it to the maximum. I have always said the French team is the most important thing that has happened to me. I thought deeply about it and I want to play for France again. It's true, pressure is something that goes with football nowadays. You need to accept it, and everything that it involves, the good and the bad. Obviously, fashion is a completely different world from football. It's only natural to want to select your best players, and there is no doubt for me that Paul Scholes is still in a class of his own. He's almost untouchable in what he does. I never tire of watching him play. Everything Iniesta does impresses me. He could even play as goalkeeper. He's magical. Messi is the Mozart of football. Mandela has played a crucial part in history. He's done some extraordinary things, not only for his country but also for the whole world. All of us at Juventus agreed Manchester United were the best side we met in the Champions League. They have so many talented young players and can only get better and better. Giggs is truly world class. Sometimes I don't know what takes me over during a game. Sometimes I just feel I have moved to a different place and I can make the pass, score the goal or go past my marker at will. If Giggs was French, Pires or myself would have been on the bench. It's the first time it's happened to me and maybe the last. It's a strange sensation, not normal for me. I can't remember scoring 3 goals, even when I was a kid. Scholes is undoubtedly the best midfielder of his generation. I don't know if we are the best team in the world. I am lucky to be playing alongside some of the best players around. It's a dream. My toughest opponent, Scholes of Manchester. He is the complete midfielder. I'm very inspired by him. It was my father who taught us that an immigrant must work twice as hard as anybody else, that he must never give up. It's hard to explain, but I have a need to play intensely every day, to fight every match hard. And this desire never to stop fighting is something else I learned in the place where I grew up. There was huge pressure, especially before the big games. Not many people believed in us, but we believed in ourselves. We wanted to do something good and we did. Zidane was from another planet. When Zidane stepped onto the pitch, the 10 other guys just got suddenly better. It is that simple. You rarely come across the complete footballer, but Scholes is as close to it as you can get. One of my regrets is that the opportunity to play alongside him never presented itself during my career. Ronaldinho is a special player, but Thierry Henry is probably technically the most gifted footballer ever to play the beautiful game. Everything I have achieved in football is due to playing football in the streets with my friends. Nobody knows if Zidane is an angel or demon. He smiles like Saint Teresa and grimaces like a serial killer. I once cried because I had no shoes to play soccer, but one day, I met a man who had no feet. If you are determined and confident, there is nothing in this great existence that can stop you from achieving what you want. When your own fans whistle and jeer, then you have a big problem. There are evil people, and I don't even want to hear those guys speak. My father is an Algerian, proud of who he is, and I am proud that my father is Algerian. I love Madrid. We'll do it, we'll do it. We are well aware of the task ahead of us in what will be a very difficult match, but which we all dream of playing. It's the first time it's happened to me and maybe the last. It's a strange sensation, not normal for me. I can't remember scoring 3 goals, even when I was a kid. It will be a physical encounter, but we must not respond in kind. I have decided to come back for less blues. I was lucky to come from a difficult area. It teaches you not just about football but also life. There were lots of kids from different races and poor families. People had to struggle to get through the day. We were a family who had come from nothing, and now we had respect from French people of all sorts. Music was important. Football was the easy part. I may have had a lot of luck in my life, but I still need to find a challenge in the game. I have no message. I have never had the opportunity to play in England, so I know little about it. I don't know if we are the best team in the world. I am lucky to be playing alongside some of the best players around. It's a dream. I am supposed to set an example to young players. I'm very inspired by him. It was my father who taught us that an immigrant must work twice as hard as anybody else, that he must never give up. I love Madrid. I am happy to be here. I have been here 3 years and hope to be here longer. But I am proud of where I come from and never forget the people I grew up with. To be recognized by a whole country is incredible. The only important thing I have to say is that my father never fought against his country. I have won many awards and I am very happy about this, but I am not the best player in the world. A Mediterranean city is really my culture. I am proud of where I come from and never forget the people I grew up with. Wherever I go, La Castellane is where I want to go back to. I was lucky to come from a difficult area. It teaches you not just about football but also life. Real Madrid is the most important thing that happened to me, both as a footballer and as a person. I have a need to play intensely every day, to fight every match hard. Sometimes words are harder than blows. The door can never be closed for good to any player. The England team must always be respected. They always fight to the end. My memories of events and games are fragmented. Football boots are very technical and have lots of specific requirements. We must not let ourselves get driven off course. No matter what happens, we must stick to our natural game. Life is full of regrets, but it doesn't pay to look back. It was my father who taught us that an immigrant must work twice as hard as anybody else, that he must never give up. It doesn't matter how many times you win an award, it is always very special. Ronaldinho is total class, a very, very great player. He is quick, powerful, and has extraordinary technical qualities. He is a dribbler but is also a player who can make the play for his teammates. He's not really a number 10, a true organizer.
The biggest obstacle I've had to overcome is being a woman in a man's world. Trust me, studios, investors, filmmakers, they will shift because they just follow the money trail. You find a way to work with people you have more in common with. Where people really base their principles has nothing to do with the color of someone's skin, it has to do with money and their class. Science fiction is a genre that everyone is keen on watching. never really watched the TV series. Fathers, sons, brothers, men everywhere, your legacy will not perish if you take your partner's surname, or she keeps hers. I do believe in us as actors and directors and writers and producers, and also as moviegoers. We have much more power than we believe we have. Without our ticket, studios can't make traditional decisions. I'm more of a guy's girl. I like having a beer in a bar, and I don't bicker or sit down and do my nails. I'm so intrigued by women throughout history where the significance of what they were representing at that time is obscured by the fact a man saved them or they were prostitutes. If there's anything that I've always said about myself is that to me, it's much more important for me to get to work with filmmakers that I've grown up loving and admiring. I love women. I worship women. Don't want to be any other woman but myself. On the basis of being a woman, by playing an alien, I avoid playing someone's girlfriend here on Earth because that's a bit of a canker sore. I don't like things like little sandals that look fragile. I like to look strong and commanding. I love wearing men's clothing and underwear. I think there are roles there, we just have to choose them. We have to fight for them. I'm a sci-fi girl. If I can have anything in life, I'd want tons of great science fiction movies and stories. It's so progressive, beautiful, and imaginative. Sometimes we get too caught up in wanting to do that one movie that will get seen and approved and nominated, that we lose sight that there are so many other movies that are worth your time. I'm a fan of the fan. I'm a fan of the active devotee who lives his life believing in something, who represents to me the character of a person that is very confident and sure of himself. Those are people I admire. I'm a kid from New York, so urban life reflected into art and music was around me and accessible and tangible. I'm a girl from Queens. I've never gone. What am I doing today? Oh, I'm gonna grab a gun and learn how to use it. I would love to play Nefertiti or Cleopatra or the Queen of Sheba. We preserve more male history than we do female. We have to preserve female history. No more complaining. We have to do it. I love skin. I don't believe the body is something to hide. There's nobody on this earth who can tell you that what you're feeling is wrong. They can tell you it's different to what they're feeling. Let's start creating better roles that accurately depict people we know so closely. What doesn't feel okay to me, what feels a little bit out of balance, is when you want to turn yourself into something else, when you want to be another person. I'm learning the power of going away for the weekend and keeping myself company. If there's any relevant influence we may have with an investor, with a studio, with a director, with an actor, I think we have to fight. I always strive to keep a balance with my fears. I don't like to be ruled by them. At the same time, I don't like the idea of living my life totally free of any fears. I like having that moderation. You have to be very committed and find happiness in the work that you do. I'm a very feminine person, but I have this hard shell, man, and I stay focused and don't take things personally. You need 100% commitment. You have to be willing to wake up every morning knowing you're going to practice 8 hours straight. I don't believe actors who say they don't bleed into their characters. It's absolutely impossible not to. I like to be around people who are very passionate, people that won't fight but that will be very overprotective and outspoken about their opinion, their point of view, their ideas. I want to have more sex, travel more, drink more wine and love life. Not to settle. If you're not happy with a person, leave. And wait until you find that one person who makes you feel good about yourself every single day and is not expecting you to change, but to grow. It's okay to say, this is what I want and go after it. I'm very accepting with my age. It's like notches on your belt, experience, wisdom, and a different kind of beauty. There comes a day when you've become comfortable in your skin. Sometimes we have to be patient because the one thing that is inevitable in life is evolution. Whether it comes at the pace that we are expecting it or not, it's inevitable. I never like to get political, but when you have the ability, through your media, to influence a large mass of people, I would want to be a part of the evolving cycle of progress versus keeping things the way that they are. There are a lot of magazines that are still that only cater to a certain demographic and only put certain people on their covers. I'm so intrigued by women throughout history where the significance of what they were representing at that time is obscured by the fact a man saved them or they were prostitutes. Every character has their reasons, even the characters who do dumb things. I think as an American society, when we're paying too many taxes or dealing with war, we don't want to see sad things at the movies. I don't believe actors who say they don't bleed into their characters. It's absolutely impossible not to. I'm a sci-fi girl. If I could have anything in life, I'd want tons of great science fiction movies and stories. It's so progressive, beautiful, and imaginative. Every time an adult is going to write something for a teenager and you don't have, physically, a person who is that, you are always going to be a little off. There's nobody on this earth who can tell you that what you're feeling is wrong. They can tell you it's different to what they're feeling. I love the anxiety, the pressure of the loud room full of yapping kids. But I'm a kid myself. I know the responsibility that entails from telling a story. The one thing I despise the most is when I go to a movie and I see a whole bunch of lazy actors making me waste my time and money. I'm a girl from Queens. I've never gone. What am I doing today? Oh, I'm gonna grab a gun and learn how to use it. I just want to be a part of great stories, whether I'm part of an amazing ensemble cast or I'm leading it or the antagonist or whatever. If there's anything that I've always said about myself is that to me, it's much more important for me to get to work with filmmakers that I've grown up loving and admiring. As a woman, you spend so much time either cooking or getting ready to go somewhere. I like to have music when I'm doing either of these things. In dance you use every part of your body except your voice. I wanted to start acting because I wanted to use my voice. I'm very accepting with my age. It's like notches on your belt, experience, wisdom, and a different kind of beauty. There comes a day when you've become comfortable in your skin. To be seen and to be respected for my work and acknowledged as a true American Latina means a lot to me. I'm learning the power of going away for the weekend and keeping myself company. I'm a very feminine person, but I have this hard shell, man, and I stay focused and don't take things personally. I'm more of a guy's girl. I like having a beer in a bar, and I don't bicker or sit down and do my nails. The biggest battle that I have is being a woman in the world. That takes center stage for me. What doesn't feel okay to me, what feels a little bit out of balance, is when you want to turn yourself into something else, when you want to be another person. I want to be the best daughter, sister, friend and wife I can possibly be, because when I die, I am not going to be buried with my Oscar. want to be in the small percentage of women who don't settle for conventional roles. Happiness is nothing but temporary moments here and there, and I love those. But I would be bored out of my mind if I were happy all the time. Music is a very big participant in everything I do, from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. It takes a lot of courage to face up to things you can't do because we feed ourselves so much denial. People think of Latina women as being fiery and fierce, which is usually true. But I think the quality that so many Latinas possess is strength. I'm very proud to have Latin blood. In Caribbean there is no middle class, you're either rich or you're poor, and the ladder to success is not really a ladder, it's a chain. Once you reach a certain level, you can't go back and you can only keep going forward. I knew who Leonard Nimoy was, and that he embodied what Star Trek meant to all the fans. But it wasn't until I started doing my research for this movie, and started going to fan sites, that I began to fall in love with these characters.
True beauty is something that attacks, overpowers, robs, and finally destroys. Perfect purity is possible if you turn your life into a line of poetry written with a splash of blood. Beauty is something that burns the hand when you touch it. Young people get the foolish idea that what is new for them must be new for everybody else too. No matter how unconventional they get, they're just repeating what others before them have done. Nobody even imagines how well one can lie about the state of one's own heart. Possessing by letting go of things was a secret of ownership unknown to youth. We live in an age in which there is no heroic death. The special quality of hell is to see everything clearly down to the last detail. I still have no way to survive but to keep writing one line, one more line, one more line. We are not wounded so deeply when betrayed by the things we hope for as when betrayed by things we try our best to despise. In such betrayal comes the dagger in the back. Anything can become excusable when seen from the standpoint of the result. If the world changed, I could not exist, and if I changed, the world could not exist. A samurai is a total human being, whereas a man who is completely absorbed in his technical skill has degenerated into a function, one cog in a machine. The instant that the blade tore open his flesh, the bright disk of the sun soared up and exploded behind his eyelids. Other people must be destroyed. In order that I might truly face the sun, the world itself must be destroyed. Of all the kinds of decay in this world, decadent purity is the most malignant. Mine was the unbearable jealousy a cultured pearl must feel toward a genuine one. Or can there be such a thing in this world as a man who is jealous of the woman who loves him, precisely because of her love? There isn't any fear in existence itself, or any uncertainty, but living creates it. There's a huge seal called impossibility, pasted all over this world. And don't ever forget that we're the only ones who can tear it off once and for all. When people concentrate on the idea of beauty, they are, without realizing it, confronted with the darkest thoughts that exist in this world. That, I suppose, is how human beings are made. For clearly it is impossible to touch eternity with one hand and life with the other. History knew the truth. History was the most inhuman product of humanity. It scooped up the whole of human will and, like the goddess Kali in Calcutta, dripped blood from its mouth as it bit and crunched. A man isn't tiny or giant enough to defeat anything. He felt that taking naps was much more beneficial than confronting catastrophes. For a long time I had not approached the forbidden fruit called happiness, but it was now tempting me with a melancholy persistence. I felt as though Sonoko were an abyss above which I stood poised. I cried sobbingly until at last those visions reeking with blood came to comfort me. And then I surrendered myself to them, to those deplorably brutal visions, my most intimate friends. Still immersed in his dream, he drank down the tepid tea. It tasted bitter. Glory, as anyone knows, is bitter stuff. The cynicism that regards hero worship as comical is always shadowed by a sense of physical inferiority. It is a rather risky matter to discuss a happiness that has no need of words. Again and again, the cicada's untiring cry pierced the sultry summer air like a needle at work on thick cotton cloth. Human life is limited, but I would like to live forever. For me, beauty is always retreating from one's grasp. The only thing I consider important is what existed once, or ought to have existed. It is a common failing of childhood to think that if one makes a hero out of a demon, the demon will be satisfied. No human being can be so honest as to become completely false. All 6 of us are geniuses. And the world, as you know, is empty. Thus, in a single phrase I can define the great illusion concerning love in this world. It is the effort to join reality with the apparition. Human beings, I now realized, could descend to communicating their feelings like dogs barking in the distance on a cold night. A father is a reality-concealing machine, a machine for dishing up lies to kids, and that isn't even the worst of it. Secretly he believes that he represents reality. We human beings sometimes steer off in a direction in which we hope to find something a little bit better. The parting, like the white fruit of an apple discoloring instantly around the bite, had begun 3 days before when they had met aboard the Rikuyo. It seemed that hell could appear day or night, at any time, at any place, simply in response to one's thoughts or wishes. It seemed that we could summon it at our pleasure and that instantly it would appear. There is no virtue in curiosity. In fact, it might even be the most immoral desire a man can possess. Beyond doubt, it would speedily verify the proverb that a nation must ravage itself before foreigners can ravage it. A man must despise himself before others can despise him. Let the darkness that is in my heart become equal to the darkness of the night that surrounds those innumerable lights. Everybody's the same. People are all the same. But it's the prerogative of youth to think it's not so. In the very simplicity of her desire to punish herself appeared egoism in its purest form. Never before had this woman, who seemed to think only of herself, experienced an egoism so immaculate. We all know that the world is empty and that the important thing, the only thing, is to try to maintain order in that emptiness. Just now I had a dream. I'll see you again. I know it. Beneath the falls. The perfectly ordinary girl and the great philosopher are alike. For both, the smallest triviality can become the vision that wipes out the world. Because the fact of not being understood by other people had become my only real source of pride, I was never confronted by any impulse to express things and to make others understand something that I knew. Separation is painful, but so is its opposite. And if being together brings joy, then it is only proper that separation should do the same in its own way. Most writers are perfectly normal in the head and just carry on like wild men. I behave normally, but I'm sick inside. The philosophy that prepares a revolution and the sentiment that underpins the philosophy have, in every case, the two pillars of nihilism and mysticism. Insensitive people are only upset when they actually see the blood, but actually by the time that the blood has been shed, the tragedy has already completed. True pain can only come gradually. It is exactly like tuberculosis in that the disease has already progressed to a critical stage before the patient becomes aware of its symptoms. However, as words become particularized, and as men begin, in however small a way, to use them in personal, arbitrary ways, so their transformation into art begins. They had laid the tender, down-ruffled little bird on a platter and appeared now to be pondering a way to eat out its heart without causing it distress. This time, Fusako was able to express herself with fluency and candor. The bold letters she had been writing week after week had granted her an unexpected new freedom. And it seemed increasingly obvious that the world would have to topple if he was to attain the glory that was rightfully his. They were consubstantial. Glory in the capsized world. That which proceeds from a man's soul shall shape his soul. That which proceeds from his speech shall shape his speech, and deeds that proceed from his body shall shape his body. Most people are always doubtful as to whether they are happy or not, cheerful or not. This is the normal state of happiness, as doubt is a most natural thing. But this girl simply let my hands gather on her own small, plump hands, like flies gathering on someone who is taking a nap. I was born with gloomy nature. I do not think I have ever known what it is to be cheerful and at ease. Better to be caught in sudden, complete catastrophe than to be gnawed by the cancer of imagination. He never made fun of her as her neighbors did. That was why she visited him. He felt in this mad, ugly woman 5 years his senior a comrade in apartments. He liked people who refused to recognize the world. Those words of my friend were like fertilizer poured over the poisonous weed of an idea deeply planted in me. As long as conscious desire is at work, it will permit distinctions to exist. But if one can suppress it, these distinctions dissolve and one can be as content with a skull as with anything else. Why are we all burdened with the duty to destroy everything, change everything, entrust everything to impermanency? Is it this unpleasant duty that the world calls life? What more could I have done when I did not know that to love is both to seek and to be sought? For me, love was nothing but a dialogue of little riddles, with no answers given. Prudery is a form of selfishness, a means of self-protection made necessary by the strength of one's own desires. Odagiro's bosom heaved with an ineffable surge of joy. "Every man is fighting," he murmured. "Every man." The only people in this world I really trust are my fans, even if they do forget you so fast. One could certainly think of a man not in terms of a body but as a single vital current. And this would allow one to grasp the concept of existence as dynamic and ongoing, rather than as static. Her nose was perfect, her lips exquisite. Like a master placing a ghost stone on the board after long deliberation, he placed the details of her beauty one by one in the misty dark and drew back to savor them.
Always go to other people's funerals, otherwise they won't come to yours. If you don't know where you are going, you'll end up someplace else. You can observe a lot just by watching. It ain't over till it's over. When you come to a fork in the road, take it. The future ain't what it used to be. In theory, there is no difference between theory and practice, but in practice, there is. cut my pie into 4 pieces, I don't think I could eat 8. Nobody comes here anymore, it's too crowded. I wish I had an answer to that because I'm tired of answering that question. 90% of the game is half mental. Half the lies they tell about me aren't true. I never said most of the things I said. If the world were perfect, it wouldn't be. Deja vu all over again. I'd give my right arm to be ambidextrous. We made too many wrong mistakes. A nickel ain't worth a dime anymore. When you come to a fork in the road, just take it. You have to give 100% in the first half of the game. If that isn't enough, in the second half, you have to give what's left. A nickel ain't worth a dime anymore. You wouldn't have won if we'd beaten you. We're lost, but we're making good time. It's tough to make predictions, especially about the future. I'm not going to buy my kids an encyclopedia. Let them walk to school like I did. It's getting late early. If you ask me anything I don't know, I'm not going to answer. It ain't the heat, it's the humility. He must have made that before he died. Little League Baseball is a very good thing because it keeps the parents off the streets. Even Napoleon had his Watergate. If you can't imitate him, don't copy him. No matter where you go, there you are. You've got to be very careful if you don't know where you're going, because you might not get there. I just want to thank everyone who made this day necessary. If the fans don't want to come out to the ballpark, no one can stop him. Pitching always beats batting, and vice versa. If you don't know where you are going, you will end up somewhere else. It's not too far, it just seems like it is. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up somewhere else. 75% of baseball is mental, the other half is physical. 90% of all mental errors are in your head. I tell the kids, somebody's gotta win, somebody's gotta lose. Just don't fight about it. Just try to get better. If you come to a fork in the road, take it. Nobody goes to that restaurant anymore because it's too crowded. It's like deja vu, all over again. 90% of this game is half mental. Yogi Berra said if the world was perfect, it wouldn't be. When you see a fork in the road, take it. Nobody goes there anymore, it's too crowded. 90% of baseball is mental, the other half is physical. You've got to be careful if you don't know where you're going, because you might get there. If you don't know where you are going, you might wind up someplace else. But Little League can be a great experience for kids, as long as they want to play and don't play to bring their parents glory. Love is the most important thing in the world, but baseball is pretty good, too. If I didn't wake up, I'd still be sleeping.
I am free of all prejudice. I hate everyone equally. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Then quit. No use being a damn fool about it. It ain't what they call you, it's what you answer to. I cook with wine. Sometimes I even add it to the food. If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. I never hold a grudge. As soon as I get even with the son of a bitch, I forget it. Everybody's got to believe in something. I believe I'll have another beer. I don't drink water. Fish fuck in it. Start every day off with a smile and get it over with. Fell in love with a beautiful blonde once. Drove me to drink, and I never had the decency to thank her. Horse sense is the thing a horse has which keeps it from betting on people. A rich man is nothing but a poor man with money. I like children, if they're properly cooked. A thing worth having is a thing worth cheating for. Ah, the patter of little feet around the house. There's nothing like having a midget for a butler. Once, during Prohibition, I was forced to live for days on nothing but food and water. No doubt exists that all women are crazy. It's only a question of degree. Never try to impress a woman. Because if you do, she'll expect you to keep up the standard for the rest of your life. Marry an outdoors woman. That way, if you have to throw her out into the yard for the night, she can still survive. I spent half my money on gambling, alcohol and wild women. The other half I wasted. Take me down to the bar. We'll drink breakfast together. Hell, I never vote for anybody. I always vote against. I always keep some whiskey handy in case I see a snake, which I also keep handy. I once spent a year in Philadelphia. I think it was on a Sunday. The best cure for insomnia is to get a lot of sleep. Remember, a dead fish can float downstream, but it takes a live one to swim upstream. It is funnier to bend things than to break them. Was I in here last night and did I spend a $20 bill? Oh, thank goodness. I thought I'd lost it. What contemptible scoundrel stole the cork from my lunch? You can't trust water. Even a straight stick turns crooked in it. If I had to live my life over, I'd live over a saloon. Always carry a flagon of whiskey in case of snakebite, and furthermore, always carry a small snake. Children should neither be seen nor heard from, ever again. Attitude is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than what people do or say. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. I never drink water because of the disgusting things that fish do in it. God damn the whole fucking world and everyone in it except you, Carlotta. I've never hit a woman in my life. Not even my own mother. When we have lost everything, including hope, life becomes a disgrace, and death a duty. Philadelphia. Wonderful town. Spent a week there one night. Never give a sucker an even break. I'm free of all prejudices. I hate all people equally. All things considered, I'd rather be in Philadelphia. Here lies W.C. Fields. I'd rather be living in Philadelphia. Never trust a man who doesn't drink. Just like my Uncle Charlie used to say, just before he sprung the trap, he said, "You can't cheat an honest man." Never give a sucker an even break or smarten up a chump. There are 3 things in life that are extremely hard: steal a diamond, and to know oneself. The news of my death is greatly exaggerated. Ain't fit for man nor beast. Drowned in a vat of whiskey. O death, where is thy sting? Don't be a luddy-duddy. Don't be a mooncow. Don't be a jabbernow. You're not those, or you. Always smile first thing in the morning. Might as well get it over with. I was in love with a beautiful blonde once. She drove me to drink. That's the one thing I'm indebted to her for. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly because you tread on my dreams. The world is full of magic things, patiently waiting for our senses to grow sharper. For he would be thinking of love till the stars had run away and the shadows eaten the moon. Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild with a fairy, hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. A mermaid found a swimming lad, picked him up for her own, pressed her body to his body, laughed, and plunging down forgot in cruel happiness that even lovers drown. Fairies, come take me out of this dull world, for I would ride with you upon the wind, run on the top of the disheveled tide, and dance upon the mountains like a flame. But I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly because you tread on my dreams. AEDH wishes for the cloths of heaven. Being Irish, he had an abiding sense of tragedy, which sustained him through temporary periods of joy. Wine comes in at the mouth and love comes in at the eye. That's all we shall know for truth before we grow old and die. I lift the glass to my mouth. I look at you and sigh. Out of the quarrel with others we make rhetoric. Out of the quarrel with ourselves we make poetry. Let us go forth, the tellers of tales, and seize whatever prey the heart longed for, and have no fear. Everything exists, everything is true, and the earth is only a little dust under our feet. Do not wait to strike till the iron is hot, but make it hot by striking. How many loved your moments of glad grace, and loved your beauty with love false or true? But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you, and loved the sorrows of your changing face. Think like a wise man but communicate in the language of the people. There are no strangers, yours, only friends you have not met yet. I bring you with reverent hands the books of my numberless dreams. The worst thing about some men is that when they are not drunk they are sober. All empty souls tend toward extreme opinions. Hearts are not had as a gift, but hearts are earned by those who are not entirely beautiful. When you are old and gray and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take down this book, and slowly read, and dream of the soft look your eyes had once, and of their shadows deep. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. I know that I shall meet my fate somewhere among the clouds above. Those that I fight I do not hate, those that I guard I do not love. We can only begin to live when we conceive life as tragedy. Wine enters through the mouth, love, the eyes. I raise the glass to my mouth. I look at you, I sigh. Literature is always personal, always one man's vision of the world, one man's experience, and it can only be popular when men are ready to welcome the visions of others. Everything exists, everything is true, and the earth is just a bit of dust beneath our feet. We taste and feel and see the truth. We do not reason ourselves into it. People who lean on logic and philosophy and rational exposition end by starving the best part of the mind. Hearts are not to be had as a gift, hearts are to be earned. I whispered, I am too young, and then, I am old enough. Wherefore I threw a penny to find out if I might love. Happiness is neither virtue nor pleasure nor this thing nor that, but simply growth. We are happy when we are growing. Think where man's glory most begins and ends, and say my glory was that I had such friends. It is so many years before one can believe enough in what one feels even to know what the feeling is. Out of Ireland have we come. Great hatred, little room, named us at the start. I carry from my mother's womb a fanatic heart. O body swayed to music, O brightening glance, how can we know the dancer from the dance? It takes more courage to examine the dark corners of your own soul than it is for a soldier to fight on a battlefield. Sometimes my feet are tired and my hands are quiet, but there is no quiet in my heart. One loses, as one grows older, something of the lightness of one's dreams. One begins to take life up in both hands, and to care more for the fruit than the flower, and that is no great loss perhaps. And softness came from the starlight and filled me full to the bone. And what rough beast, it's hour come round at last, slouches toward Bethlehem to be born. Everything that's lovely is but a brief, dreamy kind of delight. The mystical life is at the center of all that I do and all that I think and all that I write. God guard me from those thoughts men think in the mind alone. Now that my ladder's gone, I must lie down where all my ladders start, in the foul rag and bone shop of the heart. Ecstasy is from the contemplation of things vaster than the individual and imperfectly seen perhaps, by all those that still live. For he comes, the human child, to the waters and the wild with a fairy, hand in hand, from a world more full of weeping than he can understand. I am still of the opinion that only two topics can be of the least interest to a serious and studious mood: sex and the dead. Their midnights all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. And I will find some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the veils of the morning to where the cricket sings. The creations of a great writer are little more than the moods and passions of his own heart, given surnames and Christian names, and sent to walk the earth. When one gets quiet, then something wakes up inside one, something happy and quiet like the stars. I heard the old men say, all that's beautiful drifts away, like the waters. I think all happiness depends on the energy to assume the mask of some other life, on a rebirth as something not oneself. The intellect of man is forced to choose perfection of the life, or of the work, and if it take the second must refuse a heavenly mansion, raging in the dark. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold, mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping, I hear it in the deep heart's core. Fairies in Ireland are sometimes as big as we are, sometimes bigger, and sometimes, as I have been told, about 3 feet high. We have fallen in the dreams the ever-living breathe on the tarnished mirror of the world, and then smooth out with ivory hands and sigh. We had fed the heart on fantasies, the heart's grown brutal from the fair, more substance in our enmities than in our love. I'll love you, dear, I'll love you till China and Africa meet, and the river jumps over the mountain and the salmon sing in the street. We are all here on earth to help others. What on earth the others are here for I don't know. Thousands have lived without love, not one without water. Some writers confuse authenticity, which they ought always to aim at, with originality, which they should never bother about. What the mass media offers is not popular art, but entertainment which is intended to be consumed like food, forgotten, and replaced by a new dish. If equal affection cannot be, let the more loving be me. Perhaps there is only one cardinal sin: impatience. Because of impatience we were driven out of paradise. Because of impatience we cannot return. In times of joy, all of us wished we possessed a tail we could wag. History is, strictly speaking, the study of questions. The study of answers belongs to anthropology and sociology. Like everything which is not the involuntary result of fleeting emotion but the creation of time and will, any marriage, happy or unhappy, is infinitely more interesting than any romance, however passionate. All sins tend to be addictive, and the terminal point of addiction is damnation. In relation to a writer, most readers believe in the double standard. They may be unfaithful to him as often as they like, but he must never, never be unfaithful to them. The ear tends to be lazy, craves the familiar and is shocked by the unexpected. The eye, on the other hand, tends to be impatient, craves the novel and is bored by repetition. Almost all of our relationships begin and most of them continue as forms of mutual exploitation, a mental or physical barter, to be terminated when one or both parties run out of goods. Healing, Papa would tell me, is not a science, but the intuitive art of wooing nature. Between friends, differences in taste or opinion are irritating in direct proportion to their triviality. The stars are not wanted now. Put out every one. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood. For nothing now can ever come to any good. My face looks like a wedding cake left out in the rain. The class distinctions proper to a democratic society are not those of rank or money, still less, as is apt to happen when these are abandoned, of race, but of age. All that we are not stares back at what we are. May it not be that, just as we have to have faith in Him, God has to have faith in us, and, considering the history of the human race so far, may it not be that faith is even more difficult for Him than it is for us. All works of art are commissioned in the sense that no artist can create one by a simple act of will but must wait until what he believes to be a good idea for a work comes to him. Among those whom I like or admire, I can find no common denominator, but among those whom I love, I can. All of them make me laugh. I'll love you, dear, I'll love you till China and Africa meet and the river jumps over the mountain and the salmon sing in the street. Choice of attention. To pay attention to this and ignore that, is to the inner life what choice of action is to the outer. In both cases, a man is responsible for his choice and must accept the consequences, whatever they may be. If time were the wicked sheriff in a horse opera, I'd pay for riding lessons and take his gun away. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. We all have these places where shy humiliations gamble on sunny afternoons. A professor is someone who talks in someone else's sleep. Evil is unspectacular and always human, and shares our bed and eats at our own table. It takes little talent to see what lies under one's nose, a good deal to know in what direction to point that organ. A poet is, before anything else, a person who is passionately in love with language. In a world of prayer, we are all equal in the sense that each of us is a unique person, with a unique perspective on the world, a member of a class of one. You shall love your crooked neighbor, with your crooked heart. No human being is innocent, but there is a class of innocent human actions called games. Sob. Heavy world sob as you spin, mantled in mist remote from the happy. Murder is unique in that it abolishes the party it injures, so that society has to take the place of the victim and on his behalf demand atonement or grant forgiveness. It is the one crime in which society has a direct interest. No good opera plot can be sensible, for people do not sing when they are feeling sensible. If equal affection cannot be, let the more loving one be me. Some books are undeservedly forgotten, none are undeservedly remembered. The way to read a fairy tale is to throw yourself in. The center that I cannot find is known to my unconscious mind. A verbal art like poetry is reflective, it stops to think. Music is immediate, it goes on to become. Every autobiography is concerned with two characters, a Don Quixote, the ego, and a Sancho Panza, the self. One cannot walk through an assembly factory and not feel that one is in hell. A tremendous number of people in America work very hard at something that bores them. Even a rich man thinks he has to go down to the office every day. Not because he likes it, but because he can't think of anything else to do. You know, there are no secrets in America. It's quite different in England, where people think of a secret as a shared relation between two people. To save your world, you ask this man to die. Would this man, could he see you now? Ask why. Geniuses are the luckiest of mortals because what they must do is the same as what they most want to do. It's a sad fact about our culture that a poet can earn much more money writing or talking about his art than he can by practicing it. Why did God make women so beautiful and man with such a loving heart? Before, I wandered as a diversion. Now I wander seriously and sit and read as a diversion. Lucky is the man who does not secretly believe that every possibility is open to him. You live in a deranged age, more deranged than usual. Because despite great scientific and technological advances, man has not the faintest idea of who he is or what he is doing. My mother refused to let me fail, so I insisted. Losing hope is not so bad. There's something worse, losing hope and hiding it from yourself. Jews wait for the Lord, Protestants sing hymns to him, Catholics say Mass and eat him. Small disconnected facts, if you take note of them, have a way of becoming connected. The fact is, I am quite happy in a movie, even a bad movie. Other people, so I have read, treasure memorable moments in their lives. Fiction doesn't tell us something we don't know, it tells us something we know but don't know that we know. Couldn't stand it. I still can't stand it. I can't stand the way things are. I cannot tolerate this age. To become aware of the possibility of the search is to be onto something. Not to be onto something is to be in despair. Nobody but a Southerner knows the wrenching, rinsing sadness of the cities of the North. Where there is chance of gain, there is also chance of loss. Whenever one courts great happiness, one also risks malaise. There is no pain on this earth like seeing the same woman look at another man the way she once looked at you. In this world, goodness is destined to be defeated. But a man must go down fighting. That is the victory. To do anything less is to be less than a man. It is not a bad thing to settle for the little way. Not the big search for the big happiness, but the sad little happiness of drinks and kisses, a good little car and a warm deep thigh. Home may be where the heart is, but it's no place to spend Wednesday afternoon. It is possible, however, that the artist is both thin-skinned and prophetic and, like the canary lowered into the mine shaft to test the air, has caught a whiff of something lethal. Why is it that one can look at a lion or a planet or an owl or at someone's finger as long as one pleases, but looking into the eyes of another person is, if prolonged past a second, a perilous affair? I have discovered that most people have no one to talk to. No one, that is, who really wants to listen. Suppose you ask God for a miracle and God says yes, very well. How do you live the rest of your life? At night the years come back and perch around my bed like ghosts. Have you noticed that only in time of illness or disaster or death are people real? People usually told him the same joke 2 or 3 times. This miserable trick the romantic plays upon himself, of setting just beyond his reach the very thing he prizes. The origin of consciousness is the initiation of the sign user into the world of signs by a sign giver. Being uneducated is no guarantee against being obnoxious. During my last year in college I discovered that I was picking up the mannerisms of Akim Tamiroff, the only useful thing, in fact, that I learned in the entire 4 years. At that time the only treatment of angulism, that is, excessive abstraction of the self from itself, was recovery of the self through ordeal. Nowadays when a good-looking woman flirts with me, however idly, I guffaw like some ruddy English lord. Ha ha, har har, har har. I believe in God and the whole business, but I love women best. Music and science next, whiskey next, God fourth, and my fellowmen hardly at all. Have you noticed that the narrower the view the more you can see? For the first time I understand how old ladies can sit on their porches for years. A great scientist once said that genius consists not in making great discoveries but in seeing the connection between small discoveries. What Descartes did not know, no such isolated individual as he described can be conscious. People who are ordinarily understood to dislike each other or at least to be indifferent toward each other discover that they have much in common. but the expectation of the self, to be informed in its nothingness. If only I can get out of this old place and into the right new place, I can become a new person, places a heavy burden on travel. The self can be as desperately stranded in the transcendence of theory as in the immanence of consumption. Nothing remains but desire, and desire comes howling down Elysian fields like a mistral. In my new freedom I remember thinking, if one knows what he wants to do, others will not only not stand in the way but will lend a hand from simple curiosity and amazement. The second I left my old life's cowpath, I discovered I didn't need a drink. It became possible to stand still in the dark under the oaks, hands at my sides, and watch and wait. How strange to think that you cannot pass along the discovery. The drowsiness returns. It is unwelcome. I recognize it as the sort of fitful twilight which has come over me of late, a twilight where waking dreams are dreamed and sleep never comes. In New Orleans I have noticed that people are happiest when they are going to funerals, making money, taking care of the dead, or putting on masks at Mardi Gras so nobody knows who they are. What nuns don't realize is that they look better in nun clothes than in JCPenney pantsuits. This Midwestern sky is the nakedest, loneliest sky in America. To escape it, people live inside an underground. With pulleys and ropes and time to plan, one could move anything. Now that she thought of it, why couldn't anyone do anything he or she wished, given the tools and the time? I have observed that it is no longer possible for one young man to speak unwarily to another not known to him, except in certain sections of the South and West, and certainly not with a book in his hand. Pascal told only half the story. He said man was a thinking reed. What man is a thinking reed in a walking genital. Is all niceness then, or is all buggery? How can a man be 45 years old and still not know whether all is niceness or buggery? How does one know for sure? But if there's nothing wrong with me, he thought, then there is something wrong with the world. And if there is nothing wrong with the world, then I have wasted my life, and that is the worst mistake of all. When these long telephone silences come, it is a sure sign that love is over. DC's a tough place to get love unless you're from DC. It's like everybody hates you here. The only black person that everyone can agree on is Obama. My job is to inspire the people, to be on top of my game and push my culture forward. Not everybody is a great rapper. Not everybody lives for the art of lyricism. I'm insecure about things. I'm not afraid to say it, though. Even when my publicist is like, go on the red carpet, I don't want to go. Making love is, simply put, poetry in motion. I take a lot of pride in my live show and put more energy there than I do in the studio. I come from a place, with all due respect, who's never had a music star in hip-hop. So the odds is already against me. I put my foot in my mouth sometimes. I'll be the first to admit it. I want to be on a show that's not sensitive to racial jokes. I want to be on one where they call me everything and I call them right back. There's blatant racism going both ways. That's what we need. If someone doesn't have a reason to not like you in America, they talk politics or religion. Then they get to hate you and we get to be enemies. I like David Beckham just because of his lifestyle. He don't ever need to score another goal again. How many times has he been on the cover of GQ? Every artist is supposed to get emotional. You're painting pictures of emotions. I'm fortunate enough to be living my dreams and a lot of other people's dreams. I'm a black man in the United States of America, so I always feel like there's a target on me. There's no way you can win when you're the president. You've got to be the scapegoat for America's issues. I feel like I'm one of the more creative artists in the game. I think I'm going to be here for a while. I used to have a real passion for writing, but not so much anymore, probably because I do too much of it. I hope everybody thinks they've got the best album. I wouldn't have put mine out if I didn't think it was the best. A lot of my female fans discovered me through the passion I have for bettering myself. Not to say the dudes don't, but my female fan base is based off women who want to do better. I don't be remembering women that I've met before. I don't remember people as a whole. It's crazy. A lot of times, people get in their feelings, like, you don't remember me. I used to switch up my cologne every 2 to 3 months, get a new wave, Dolce, Versace, Burberry. But Black Orchid, that joint stayed. That's the smell of beauty that stays on you, and girls love Tom Ford. Ruzzle's my therapy. When I get off the stage from a packed show and I'm exhausted, I'll just go ruzzle for like a good 30 minutes. There are certain things that can be asked that get me excited. It's never a thing where I think I'm too good. I'm just the type of person who likes to be enlightened. I don't like to go through the motions. I'm learning as I go. I don't know everything. I never had anybody to look at. Nobody ever taught me. And where I'm from, I didn't have any famous role models. I don't want to sound pretentious talking about myself. I go out, but not too much. When I'm on tour, I just write a lot of music and sleep. In terms of Seinfeld, I think there's a lot of reality in a show that's supposed to be about nothing. You don't necessarily pick the singles that you want when you're making a record, but for the most part it's the same process. You're the artist, you make the music that you want to make. Mixtapes are something that have been going on for a while. They've been pretty important to hip-hop for the past 10 years. It's the way we advertise our music to the public for free. We lived in a one-bedroom apartment in Northwest DC. I was essentially raised by a Panamanian man and a Jamaican woman. That's why I have such a fascination with Jamaican food. Everything's pretty consistent in the industry, you know. There's a couple of naysayers, whatever, people who don't agree. But for the most part a lot of people believe in the new class of MCs that coming to the game. I don't want to be one of those guys that you see who made $4 million, invested $3.5 million, and now you work at Wendy's. I never had money. I like nice things, but I don't let that run my life. At the same time, I have to let something drive me, so now I let the money drive me. I'm a regular person. I know a lot of people love being famous. I don't like it. I'm just chillin'. You know what I'm saying. The web is the new way to figure out who's hot and what's not. You can't let TV dictate because it's so polished, so political. It is what they want you to know. The internet is the raw. My life is better than a lot of people I know. I'm definitely happy about that. When we were in DC, my daddy used to cut his hair with a bowl. Crucial. If you're African, high-tan, Jamaican or even more poor than the people in the project, you'll know about that. I'm never satisfied, man. I'm Virgo. We overanalyze and we're never satisfied. So I'm gonna keep going, till the wheels fall off. I speak my mind. That's what we love Tupac for. I'm a passionate person, to a fault at times. It's a trend to insult whale. Like that makes you cool on the internet, and a part of it is because I respond. The first thing that's important is to really have people believe in you. If you have that, you can do anything. My dream tour would be like me, Cole, Drake, Sean, Meek. I think that would be dope. Something like that. Big venues. Sometimes I'm happy. You can tell via Twitter. Sometimes I'm pissed off. You can tell via Twitter. I just think, at the end of the day, I don't want them to see me as a celebrity. I just want them to see me and say, he's like a regular person at his job right now who's mad. I dated a lot, but I never really had anyone who was worthy of an anniversary. And most girlfriends never made it to a year, anyway. All the rappers my age are getting Audemars and Rolexes. I want to find my own thing. That's why I travel the world. For me, that's my B-side, why we go places. I have a hublot on from time to time, but I want a home base watch. Something that's elegant but has got a little pizzazz to it. Basically, the internet is just the way now. It's the end-all, be-all of self-promotion. It's not like you got to burn CDs and pass them out or sell them. The internet is a tool that reaches billions and billions of people. It's like a no-brainer to tie it in with self-promotion, or even label promotion. However, people need to understand that it ain't that deep to try and convince people of what your persona is. You are who you are, and what you are will show in time. What you aren't can be hidden, but eventually it will come to light. Long story short, rappers should never take themselves too seriously. Hip-hop is all about impact, baby. You can sell records, you can be 2 times platinum, you can be gold, but if you lame, man. We try to provide the exact opposite of that. It's style, individuality, confidence. We exude that. I worked at a hot dog place, a bagel place, the Jersey store, and the hottest fashion joint around. I was getting too famous to work there anymore. I was almost showing up as a joke. I made $2,000 on my show the previous night, and I'm going to go shopping during my 5-hour shift. I'm very proud of my Nigerian heritage. I wasn't fortunate enough to be raised in a heavy Nigerian environment, because my parents were always working. My father was with DC Cavs and my mother worked in fast food and was a nurse. You can be a rapper born and raised in go-go music, violence, drugs, crack, Reaganomics, and still, if you hear, "Wake me up before you go-go," you're going to find a way to hum along. Guilty pleasures. It don't matter. Sue me. I like the song. To dance to it is another matter. I can take an opinion, but I don't like when you try and spew hate and contaminate the way other people think. I feel like I'm one of the people that's always made music for the common man. That's why I don't really live my life the way I could. I don't stunt as much as I could stunt, 'cause that's not who my music is for. I've seen all types of women. Celebrity girls have dated and regular 9-to-5 girls. I've had shows where married women have tried to follow me to my hotel. My perception of women isn't very ignorant because I've seen a lot. I never understood the idea that I was a backpack rapper. I think that's a lazy way that people started thinking. They like saying that because I got dreads. I look like I belong a certain place, so it's easy to put everything in a box. As much as I don't want to admit it, my fans are the only ones that can hurt my feelings when they're not pleased with what I'm presenting. I want it to be perfect for them. I want them to have a different sense of pride in my music. Not to sound corny, but intelligence is big. Everything fades, and everything can be modified. But intelligence is something you can't fake. I'm not even talking about whether you can read a thesaurus backwards. But there is a beauty in common sense. I've become a workaholic. When the shows slow down and there's no press and I can get my time to myself in the studio with my music, I get into this zone, man. I enter this incredible space where I'm just making music. And I feel like I can work with anybody. With Elton John, with Hanson, and I can make something incredible. Most things break, including hearts. The lessons of life amount not to wisdom, but to scar tissue and callus. It is the beginning of wisdom when you recognize that the best you can do is choose which rules you want to live by, and it's persistent and aggravated imbecility to pretend you can live without any. The lessons of life amount not to wisdom, but to scar tissue and callus. He used to tell me, do what you like to do. It'll probably turn out to be what you do best. There it is, the place where during the best time of our lives friendship had its home and happiness its headquarters. She had rooms in her mind that she would not look into. Be proud of every scar on your heart. Each one holds a lifetime's worth of lessons. Youth hasn't got anything to do with chronological age. It's times of hope and happiness. You'll do what you think you want to do, or what you think you ought to do. If you're very lucky, luckier than anybody I know, the two will coincide. Towns are like people. Old ones often have character, the new ones are interchangeable. Our last impression of her as she turned the corner was that smile, flung backward like a handful of flowers. You can't retire to weakness. You've got to learn to control strength. In a way, it is beautiful to be young and hard up. With the right wife, and I had her, deprivation became a game. A writer is an organism that will go on writing even after its heart has been cut out. It is love and friendship, the sanctity and celebration of our relationships, that not only support a good life, but create one. Through friendships, we spark and inspire one another's ambitions. Wherever you find the greatest good, you will find the greatest evil, because evil loves paradise as much as good. You married me. But you didn't marry what you could make out of me. It's easier to die than to move. At least for the other side you don't need trunks. No life goes past so swiftly as an eventless one. No clock spins like a clock whose days are all alike. Hope was always out ahead of fact. Possibility obscured the outlines of reality. No one who has studied Western history can cling to the belief that the Nazis invented genocide. The perfect weather of Indian summer lengthened and lingered. Warm sunny days were followed by brisk nights with Halloween a presentiment in the air. Creation is a knack which is empowered by practice, and like almost any skill, it is lost if you don't practice it. I know no way of discounting the doctrine that when you take something you want, and damn the consequences, then you had better be ready to accept whatever consequences ensue. We made plenty of mistakes, but we never tripped anybody to gain an advantage, or took illegal shortcuts when no judge was around. We have all jogged and panted it out the whole way. His clock was set on pioneer time. He met trains that had not yet arrived. He waited on platforms that hadn't yet been built, beside tracks that might never be laid. It is almost impossible to write fiction about the Mormons, for the reason that Mormon institutions and Mormon society are so peculiar that they call for constant explanation. Salt is added to dried rose petals with the perfume and spices, when we store them away in covered jars, the summers of our past. I hope they have found enough pleasure along the way so that they don't want it ending. There is nothing like a doorbell to precipitate the potential into the kinetic. There is some history that I want not to have happened. I resist the consequences of being nemesis. Survival, it is called. Often it is accidental. Sometimes it is engineered by creatures or forces that we have no conception of. Always it is temporary. It happens that I despise that locution, having sex, which describes something a good deal more mechanical than making love and a good deal less fun than fucking. Satisfying natural desires is fine, but natural desires have a way of being both competitive and consequential. We were two of a kind, the only difference being that he was reverential before all the traditional word magic, and I would steal it if I could. He came to the tradition as a pilgrim, I as a pickpocket. What if I can't turn my head? I can look in any direction by turning my wheelchair, and I choose to look back. Rodman to the contrary notwithstanding, that is the only direction we can learn from. For history is a pontoon bridge. Every man walks and works at its building end, and has come as far as he has over the pontoons laid by others he may never have heard of. When you're nailing a custard pie to the wall, and it starts to wilt, it doesn't do any good to hammer in more nails. Now, where do I belong in this country? Where is home? He says that when asked if he feels like an old man, he replies that he does not, he feels like a young man.